From the first recorded war nearly 5,000 years ago to modern conflicts in Syria and Afghanistan, war is nothing new to the human condition. But the way we operate, the risks we no longer have to take, so much has changed in the last 15 years as technology and globalization have connected people and nations like never before, allowing the Air Force to fight battles around the world without ever leaving American soil. Global reach, global vigilance, global power. These words, our enduring contributions in this modern era, now carry so much more meaning than just a catchphrase. And for the Air Force, our reach and power all begins right here at home.
If every ground commander, if he could put a Predator or a Reaper over every one of his platoons, he would do that. They want what the Air Force provides in terms of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance because we're better than anyone else on the planet. And we do it better than anybody else on the planet because we put the resources in to do it well and to do it right.
45 minutes northwest of the Vegas Strip sits an Air Expeditionary Wing.
Whenever someone hears Creech, you got to think about where Creech is located, because I think that's a lot of what people think about is being in Las Vegas. But we're not in Las Vegas. We are in the Nevada desert. We're in the mountains.
The mission of the 432nd is simple. These airmen are responsible for providing coalition forces on the ground with the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities that are required to kill the bad guys and get the good guys home. While these airmen aren't physically deployed overseas, the surrounding desert is ironically reminiscent of Afghanistan. And in essence, these guys are deploying and redeploying every morning and every night.
We are fighting from home. Every day, airmen on this installation are responsible for missions that are potentially taking enemy off the battlefield every single day. And I ask them, every time they come through that gate, I want them to have the deployed mentality.
Despite being commonly known as drones, the MQ-1 Predator and MQ-9 Reaper are anything but mindlessly operated weapons. They're flown by airmen deeply connected to what is happening on the ground.
This community is very manpower intensive. From the aircrew that fly the airplane, to the maintainers that maintain the airplanes, to the vast number of intel professionals who are required to take the data we collect and make it information. It takes a lot of people to do that, so it's a manpower intensive operation.
No decision is made blindly or approved without intense scrutiny from a chain of command.
There will always be those few people who will always think, no matter what I tell them or whatever we tell them as a community, that it's a bunch of video gamers. And there's nothing that could be further from the truth. And I'll admit, prior to my time coming in this community 10 years ago, I had the same misperception that most people had, a perception that came from not knowing. There's always somebody involved in the decision making, multiple somebodies. My crews don't make the decision to kill bad guys. My crews support ground commanders in forward operating areas. And those organizations follow very strict processes and procedures for determining who's an enemy, for determining if it's the right time to engage, is it the right weapon. All those decisions are made away from Creech Air Force Base, and in the end, we all have a vote as well. My airmen have a vote at the end of the day because they're the ones pulling the trigger and they're the ones guiding the weapon. And if they're not comfortable with that shot, they won't take it. We are professional airmen, they're professional aviators, and that profession brings responsibility. And that responsibility is, if I'm going to take a life today, I'm going to take a life knowing that it's the right thing to do.
Supporting our men and women on the ground through remote programs like those at Creech isn't the only way airmen are taking the fight to the field without stepping foot off American soil. Earlier in 2015, U.S. airmen made history, training the first class of Afghan A-29 fighter pilots here at home. The 81st Fighter Squadron out of Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, is designed to help Afghan pilots to gain an edge on their enemies by providing close air support to friendly fighters on the ground. With the security of Afghanistan's Air Force Academy constantly being challenged, training these pilots to fight in the A-29 Super Tucano here in the United States provides them with a much-needed and unique opportunity to safely learn how they can defend themselves and their families against insurgents back in Afghanistan.
The Super Tucano was built as a counterinsurgency and light attack type aircraft, so the entire design was built around those types of requirements. So very long loiter time, a very appropriate armament for this type of mission. It's used by 10 different air forces around the world, a lot of them in Central South America, and a lot of nations throughout Africa. So this is kind of a unique program for the United States Air Force because it has built a cadre of instructor pilots and maintainers that have built up some knowledge on an aircraft that will allow us to engage with other partner nations.
It isn't just that Afghan pilots are learning battlefield techniques in a safe location here in the U.S., but what makes this program even more special is that this is the first time it's ever been done with airmen in the A-29.
This is a program that started up from scratch. We don't have Air Force personnel that fly this aircraft. There's no Air Force personnel that are qualified in this aircraft until us. So we are coming up with all the tactics for this aircraft. We're coming up with all the ways to instruct the students, and all that stuff is us having to come up with that from scratch.
This program has been moving at breakneck speed, and it's thanks to a team that spans Headquarters Air Force, AFCENT, a whole slew of organizations that have really bed down a new mission and a new aircraft. And one of the good things that we have is a lot of the pilots and maintainers from the Afghan Air Force that we're getting are experienced. I mean, most of the Afghan pilots have between 500 and 1,000 hours of flying time, so we're able to leverage their experience and talk to them about how do they run a squad and how do they operate, and we're mirroring that here because we're trying to make this look, smell, operate exactly like what they're going to see when they get back to their home country and have to take this aircraft into combat. And when you talk about that lens or thinking about what they're going to do, we're very conscious that when they get back, there's going to be a very short window of transition and they're going right into fighting. You know, it's sometimes hard for us to, in America to conceptualize that they've been at war for 35 years.
The collapse of the Afghan government in 1992 and a bloody civil war left their air force in pieces. Once the Taliban was ousted from power in late 2001, only a few helicopters remained.
Yes, we will be the first. The first fighter aircraft pilot among the Afghan new generation.
While training these pilots at Moody is a critical step in helping Afghanistan to rebuild, it doesn't come without its risks. Being one of the first fighter pilots in Afghanistan's new Air Force puts a target on your back.
I think it's really important to keep it and hide it from people that they don't know you, because they're going to treat your family, and that's what happened to most people. And to be honest, to my family, what happened, we missed one of our brother, being almost 2.5 years. We don't really know about him right now. He used to be Air Force Army Sergeant, and so we lost him. We don't really know what happened to him, because can't say it. All right. Yeah, sorry.
If this entire effort of our nation goes south in Afghanistan, these are going to be some of the first folks that are probably hunted down by the enemy. This is their opportunity to really stand on their own. This is the last piece of the puzzle for the Afghan military, their ability to provide close air support to their soldiers out in the field, and once they have mastered that, they'll ensure their own future.
There will be freedom one day in Afghanistan.